Hi class, as you know, we're going to start reading the Diary of Anne Frank. Each of you will do a blog of your own diary entry. You're going to have 5 of them, as if you're in the Holocaust. You will do an entry a day, and you're going to need to discuss something that we learned in class that day. But before you do that, you need to decide where you're going to be writing your diary from. You can either write it from hiding as a refugee or in the ghettos or concentration camps. I'm going to discuss each place so that way you know what kind of perspective you're supposed to bring to your diary. So if you're going to write in hiding like Anne Frank, the reason you would have done this was to evade German authorities. You would hide in attics, bunkers, cellars throughout Eastern and Western Europe. You really need to reflect on the difficulties and danger of being concealed in your diary entry, because children that were hidden had to remain silent and motionless for hours at a time while they were hiding, and they were in constant fear of being raising suspicion throughout the neighborhood and being found. Another place in hiding is hiding in plain sight, as if they did in Belgium and France. They had to pass as non-Jews, and they would do this through protection of false paperwork and assumed identities. They had to adapt swiftly and completely to their identities and their environment. They had to learn fictitious names and avoid using languages or mannerisms that might betray where they're from. Almost all Jewish children in hiding were hidden by individuals or religious institutions that embraced different religions as their own. They had to learn prayers and catechisms of the adopted religion in order to avert suspicion from both adults and peers. And any false word would be significant to endanger both the child and his or her rescuer. Another place is a refugee. Refugee diaries were often composed in 1930s and early 1940s by children of assimilated Jewish parents in Germany, Austria, or the Czech land. Many of these diary entries address the aspect of being displaced because you were taken from your homeland and sacrificing your familiarities of your home and seek refuge among strangers in a distant country. Regardless of how they escaped, refugee diaries reflect the pain and the confusion of loss of home, language, and culture, and the devastating separation of family and friends, and the challenge of adopting and adapting to the life in an unfamiliar and sometimes alienating world. The last place you can choose to do your journal entry from is from the ghettos, camps, or the occupied areas, and children and young people who resided in the ghettos in the German occupied Europe wrote majority of their diaries from the Holocaust that have been found. Ghetto diaries often reflect the segregation, isolation, and vulnerability of the writer. They capture extreme physical suffering, deprivation experienced by the authors, and present a complex hardship and adversity that Jews faced during the struggle to survive during the Holocaust. In Ghetto Diaries, the reader finds a first-hand account of the terrors and violence of the Nazi persecution, but also read about the young people and their attempts to transcend their circumstances through study, creativity, and play. So those are the 3 places you can choose from. Each diary reflects a fragment of history. Diaries by children, teenagers, and young adults during the era of Holocaust reflect great perspectives of personal background and wartime circumstances. Authors often address themes such as nature of human suffering, the moral and ethical dimensions of persecution, and the struggle and hope against despair. Each diary reflects a fragment of the author's life as well, but taken together, the diaries provide the reader a very complex view of young people who lived and died during the Holocaust. So each of your blogs needs to describe the setting, something that we talked about in that day, and really capture the reason why you're writing and how you feel.